who's on the phone on the 2968? Is that Colleen?
No, that's me, Joanne.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, how are you? How's
Good.
everyone?
Living the dream.
Good.
Good.
Had a real good meeting with the health department today, and all the concern about us going yellow and all that.
Looks like Niagara County's up there, huh? A little bit, huh?
Well, that's what we talked to all the superintendents. There's no way to test out of it. The governor says if you test 20%, but for our districts to test 20%, that's over 7,000 tests per week. And the health department says they can only handle 600.
Oh,
So there's no way you can do it. So the governor is going to be forcing everybody. I think you'll see this with Erie County first. They're going to go virtual.
I see Niagara Falls has some kind of rapid test.
They haven't even gotten the equipment yet. You know, they're going to. It's nice talk. I'll talk about how I cut a deal with a local lab and with a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way we can do 20% of the students and staff. And so the governor really wants us to go virtual.
Isn't there something legally that school districts can't do it? I heard that on Channel 2 tonight. That
Well, Niagara Falls is trying to do it, but they have what, 8,000 students, so they got to do 1,600 students a week. So they're going to have their nurses and all their doctors out by the roadside testing.
you'd need a lot of nurses and doctors to do that. And truthfully, I don't know how many doctors are going to want to do that type of, I don't mean to sound nasty, but you'd probably have more nurses doing that type of work than trying to find doctors that would do that.
You got to have a medical oversight and all this stuff. So just look at what the colleges are doing in terms of SUNY's going to be shut down. I'm going to ask later, I'm going to talk to you about a virtual day next week so we can practice to see, like our special ed kids have computers at home, which are the parents, they don't know how to operate them. So I'm going to ask if we can go virtual next week and test the system for connectivity. We'll have the staff come in and it'd be almost like practice, a dry run for hookups.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope we make it to next week.
Hey, Clark, you know what SUNY schools are doing? They're doing pooled surveillance testing. So you do a mouth swab, and they put, I believe, 12 of them together, and then they test them as a pool. And if anybody tests positive, all those 12 people have to go into quarantine until they get their negative test results back, until they figure out who's positive. But
oh my God.
yeah.
What the health department told us today, the kids are safest in school and the staff are safest in school. The incidence of COVID is like less than 1%. But once we shut down, they're going to be out. And that's what happened up in Newport. The cheerleaders had a party over Halloween and it spread. So they're safest in school, but if the state's not going to let us, when we go yellow.
Well, it's 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Ours in Wheatfield is only at 0.3.
Yeah.
I think we should start the meeting. Are we good to go?
Let me do a quick count for quorum here. Janice, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Mike Wyrau, is that you that ends in 4571? No?
No, I'm MW.
Dan, that's you?
Yeah, that's me, 4571.
And who ends in 9282?
Me, Janice.
Okay. All right, we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
We're recording, so we're good. Okay, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. And I guess we start with the pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
Republic for which it stands,
which it
One
stands,
nation,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
with
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 liberty
liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Do we have anybody who wants to speak? Any public? Did you get anything, Cindy? Nothing.
They leave comments on YouTube. They can't verbally speak at the meeting
Oh, I got you. Okay.
because of Zoom.
Okay, I guess we're up to standing resolutions.
I'll move A through, this is Tom, I'll move A through F.
second, Tim.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's passed. So we can move on to the next part. Personnel.
We'll have an executive session, I'm assuming.
Yes, please.
Sorry. Okay, career education. Okay, Mike has nothing to say.
Well, Mike, why don't you talk about the virtual day and what you're planning?
Okay, so today we pushed out a lot of information to parents, staff, CT as a whole. We got 2 mass mailers out that included a cover letter that indicated that we're going to a virtual day on November 18th. And in addition to that, we also mailed out a 2-page overview of the remote or online learning student expectations to the parents as we kind of transition into what we know is going to happen sooner or later, is that full virtual. So we're trying to prepare for that. The staff received a couple of video notifications from me, as well as a couple other attachments of just kind of wrapping up the first marking period and planning for what's next. So we're in the process of planning that day, which is the 18th, the schedule of it, what our expectations are, how we're going to do some trainings throughout, collectively to identify the information that we're going to need to fix and put some steps in place to tackle those tasks. So it was a pretty productive informational day today.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Okay, we can move on to facilities.
Wait, I have a question for Mike.
Go ahead.
Did that information go to the district superintendents or curriculum people so they know too?
So it should have gone to the high school principals, and I believe the superintendents were informed both verbally by Clark as well as electronically with the notice that we sent to the districts. That was around 4 o'clock this afternoon when we were wrapping everything up. That mailer got done around 4:30. So I can double check into that, but we will make sure we do communicate that across the board so everyone's aware of it.
I mean, I'm asking because Newport students, BOCES students have to stay home. So I just want to make sure that they're really, know what they need to do.
Yeah, they're home this week.
Right.
And then next Wednesday, this is the day we're training for that. Everyone will be staying home. The students will stay home 100%. The staff will report 100%.
Oh, okay.
But we will pass that information out across the board.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Facilities.
Okay, this is Wayne Wadhams. Dan Conley's there. Is Dan Conley?
Yes,
there?
I am.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so everyone's got, I'm assuming everyone's seen their facilities update, and I was just wondering if Dan wanted to comment further on what's on our updated sheet.
Well, I'd just like to give special mention to a local guy in Medina who, Mike McCauley, does Canvas. And he was able to cover that awning at 50 Main, and actually went out of his way and found somebody to do the stenciling, because he said he doesn't do stenciling. And I said, oh, but it's got to say 50 Main on it. So he really went out of his way to take care of that for us. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the board's support on the roof project for 50 Main. That has gone extremely well. to be able to tear off a roof and find little surprises underneath, almost no surprises, is very promising. And I think that's it. Facilities keeps moving forward.
Okay,
Okay, anyone have any questions?
I do. The picture of 50 Main, are those bronze ON plaques on there?
No, those were the value-friendly alternative from Takeform. Takeform made them. It's resin-type plastic, but with the coloring and design, they almost look like they're brass. But a brass sign cost probably $1,500. That sign was probably $150.
It's great.
Yeah, it great. It looks very nice. I really appreciate all the support we've received from the board on 50 Main. It really it's become a gem.
It's good. And Patricia's husband works at Takeform too. Patricia Hardigan's husband.
Yep.
Good.
It's nice to be able to use some of the local companies help us. Yes.
Definitely. Public relations?
No.
Nothing?
Jimmy is the chair of that.
I haven't heard
Okay. Okay. Legislation, Tom.
I already sent the report of how the annual meeting went, so there's no need to go over that other than to say I thought it was productive. And the BOCES proposed resolution for the exit interviews for the audit was passed. The big thing, and it's just very subject to how things go nationally, is any sort of funding that could see its way to the states. There's just so much that's unsettled right now in regards to elections and control of the Senate and some other things that if we're hoping for funding to forestall a 20% aid cut becoming permanent, there really has to be some decisions made pretty quickly, but there's just nothing to report. Everything is just in a state of, not everything, but things are in a state of flux currently, as I think people know. So there's really nothing more. Eventually, I would think, hopefully in a month, we will have some more clarity. So one way or the other.
And hopefully it's good. Audit, Melanie and John.
Well, I can talk to it. Tonight we met with John. Is he going to present now, Melanie, or is it, what do you want to do that? Or later. Anyways, we had
just a little bit.
Okay, we had a meeting tonight. We did our audit meeting with Mango, Metzger, and Barr, and John, I'm going to ruin your last name, Rekowitz, presented it. And as far as we can see, everything looks really good. So we had some minor things that we had to take care of, but other than that, the audit looked very good.
Okay, Melanie, we're holding up on John.
I think, Dr. Gottschall, do you want John to present after your report?
No, he can go ahead.
Okay.
Fine. Good time.
Go ahead, John. Thank you.
Sure. And you know, as Robert mentioned, we met and with the audit committee and had a very good meeting, good discussion, and just went over what happened financially with the BOCES over the past year. We discussed the impact of the shutdown due to COVID. We also talked about the good financial practices that management has. Clark and Melanie doing a very good job of managing things through this, to be able to address the needs of BOCES as well as helping the component districts with their planning. BOCES ended the year in good financial condition. You have legally funded reserves that are going to help as far as dealing with changes coming up and your planning. You have a plan for moving forward, so that's good and proper. We talked about BOCES. You have a good process having your board review and approve your funding of your reserves. So that's a very positive thing. We talked about the continuing and adult ed programs and the impact the shutdown had on those. Continue to look for opportunities to improve those projects and avoid deficits. Also provided a communication on internal controls with a couple procedural items identified in there. Melanie provided the corrective actions that BOCES already drafted and regarding those items. We also discussed some items that had been brought up in a previous year that corrective actions have been taken this year. So very positive to see management addressing those recommendations. And just overall, very good job throughout the audit. Melanie and her team do a great job meeting our needs to allow us to get through all the testing that we have to do and be able to get the numbers together to present the report. So very, very good year.
Any questions for John?
No.
Okay, thanks, John. Great job.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again,
Okay.
John. Have a good night.
Take care, John.
Okay, superintendent's
Yeah,
comments.
I also added kudos to Mrs. Conley and Kelly Van Kramer in terms of, they have about 160 million that runs through their hands with our consortiums and everything. And we had some, hate to say it, net savings last year because of COVID, because we shut down. But they just do a fantastic job, and their fiduciary responsibility is well carried out. And I just want to extend thanks to them. Hate to be upbeat during a pandemic, but there's a lot of great things going on. And again, I invite everybody to come on in and check things out. Our staff is fantastic in terms of what they're doing with the students and the programs and compliance. And I think the first good news is in terms of our budgets. We're really looking, and I've been on a lot of workshops. In a couple of weeks, the state's going to come out with all their deficits across the board and probably some negative state aid issues. Mrs. Conley has brought the administrative budget in at net zero. So that'll help the districts in terms of we're not going to impact their costs. And our operations and maintenance with contract settlements and things are up 1%. So I think that really kicks us off. That has a major impact on our other budgets. So I am worried about, I call it the post-election state problems that we'll be seeing. And just in terms of a heads up, in terms of the state, it's held back about 20% in terms of grant funds. And it's very selective, and I don't want to panic and say it's 20% across the board, because 20% for a place like Niagara Falls is $25 million. But there's some holdbacks, so we'll probably be coming to you in the spring with a need to possibly furlough some staff that are grant funded. So we'll be taking a look at that. We're already alerting people in terms of cutback and hang in there. And of course, in terms of COVID, the not so good in terms of, we are doing better than most of the districts. We have to report daily based on our beds code. Yeah, that's required by SED, and we've talked to the governor and the Department of Health. And it's kind of misleading in terms of, we have to report our CTE students, about 1,600 students, but the districts are also counting them too. But so in terms of the reporting, we're following all that guidance on how we do that. I also have to add kudos to the custodial staff, you know, Mr. Van Vliet, and he's working all kinds of hours in his group, the administrators, all the cleaners. We're into the second wave, and I started talking earlier in terms of the county. We're not yellow yet, but we're going very soon into yellow. And if you follow the governor's guidance, we have to, in order to get out of yellow, you have to test 20% of your students and staff. Well, if you add up the 13 districts, that's 35,000 students, 20% is 7,000. So we talked to the health department today, they can only handle about 500 tests per week. And so then maybe they could handle Niagara Falls for like a 2-week period. So there's some big issues. I'm talking to the districts in terms of what we do if we have to go virtual. In terms of last week, just a couple highlights. We had a staff member that tested positive at Roy Hart last Thursday. And the timing is important on this too. We found out about 3:30. By the time we talked to the health department, we talked to the local superintendent, go back and forth. It's about 5 o'clock and we have to make a decision. We get this mixed information. We heard that a staff member was in multiple classrooms. So because we have multiple districts, we have to make contact with the transportation, with all the other districts. So I made the decision to close its site on Friday, which we did. They flipped into virtual, and that's what we're practicing more and more, how to flip to virtual. So again, congrats to the administration. I understand the principal was there like to 9:30 at night, the bus companies. So everybody pitched in and pulled it off, and people were back in the building who were able to on Monday. And of course, the affected people. We now have more students. We have a list of students who are in quarantine for 14 days. Down at the Niagara Center, we had a COS student who came in that I won't identify the district, but that knocked the teacher out in terms of a hot class. And down here at the Orleans Center, we had a staff member that tested positive. She had a guest come in over the weekend around Halloween and she got it, so that knocked out the class. So what we're seeing is, we're not seeing a spread by students. We're seeing outside staff members come in, bringing in the COVID. And that's the concern. In Niagara Falls, on election day, we went virtual because the entire district went virtual. They had no transportation, no food service. And we learned a lot from that. We're kind of practicing. We found out that the students need practice. They're on their home computers, but they don't know how to turn down the volume or how to enlarge the picture. So the teachers have responded and they're now doing training. They know what each student has in terms of a computer, so they can tailor the instruction to help the student. And that's why you heard talk about this virtual day. I'd like to plan that for next Wednesday. We got to get the word out real quick. And the advantages are that most of the districts are in virtual on that day. It's going to save the districts money. They don't have to transport anybody. We'll have the staff come in. We'll be all prepped. And we have a very rigorous day in terms of contact time. If they can't make contact with a student, we have time built in so they can reach out. And just in case that doesn't work, all the students will receive packets ahead of time. So there is no loss of continuity of instruction. If they can't get on, they still have their work. So the staff has really stepped up to do that. And again, if there's any concerns from the board, I'd be happy to do those. But I think it's important to do a dry run. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I hope we make it to next Wednesday without going out virtually. That's kind of where we are. In terms of good support from the health department, most of those people there, they didn't sign up for this in terms of having all the work. Talked to Dan Stapleton from Niagara County. Over the weekend, he added, usually they have one nurse on call. They had to add 6 or 7, and the nurses were pulling 13-hour days, and they still went home on Sunday night with 17 people. They're up to 150 cases that they tried to do contact tracing. And he said on Sunday night, they went home and there were still 17 people that they didn't make contact with. So it kind of falls on the district. And that's kind of where the governor wants it too, in terms of if he declares yellow, he'll say, well, yeah, you can test out, get 20%. But we don't have the supplies. We don't have the staff. We don't have the support of the health department. So they're kind of pushing us into virtual. They like us to make that decision. And quite frankly, they don't have to make the decision. So I've taken the Niagara Falls testing option. Niagara Falls had talked about getting a test set. They have medical staff, they have PAs, they have many nurses. So they applied to do local testing, but they too can't get the tests. So I approached the Eastern Niagara Urgent Care over in Lockport on behalf of the 12 districts, and I cut a deal that we can send our staff there and we got a very lowered rate in terms of what we would pay, they would get preference, and that they could go in there for the 15-minute test. That's if we need it. Again, they can't handle 7,000, but it's an option for the districts. So all your component districts, I'm working with Dan Milanich on a contract, Mr. Van Vliet's involved with the contract, so that at least we have an option. Let's say we're out and the payroll clerk needs a test. He or she comes in sick. We can quickly send that person for a test and get the results so that we know if we have a problem. So I'm pretty excited about that. And again, that's become a model, and the other BOCES are starting to make similar deals. Yeah, 50 Main Street is going great guns. We're excited about that. I am concerned. We just got the numbers for our career and technical education. We're down by 50 students, and that's very high. And also the districts are not allowing our staff to come in to recruit. I have to say, I attribute this to a lot of the negativism that's going on with the local union presidents and things like that. So I have to put it on the negative people. And so we're going to be starting that budget down $400,000. And like I said, I am concerned about the drop in numbers. I continue to receive a lot of positive comments. I know certain people don't like to hear that, but from the staff when I visit, I was up in Newfane today, doing great things in terms of the operation, and the students are happy to be there. I've received no complaints from parents. Our principals and superintendents are very pleased about our operation. And again, I say if anybody has any concerns, they are more than welcome to come in and check us out. I think I sent you my note I put up on the webpage, and I'll do more frequent updates to staff. And of course, we always ask in terms of if there's any concerns. Last week, I had my first president's meeting with our 6 unions, and that was an opportunity to bring forward complaints. And I just had one complaint in terms of our aides, which was a personnel matter that we quickly fixed. So again, there are opportunities for people to bring complaints forward. And if they bring it to the administration and we hear about it, we can act on it. I do ask for your support. There's a couple MOAs tonight in terms of an individual teacher. And I'll talk about administrative MOA in executive session. So I do ask for your support on those. We have spoken about those previously, and they're coming to fruition. And as I said, in terms of the best thing is if people have concerns, so they're not dealing with misinformation and they don't know what's going on, come on in and check it out. Had a couple superintendents take me up on it, and to bring light to the issues is the best thing going. What else? I guess that's it. That's enough. Any questions?
I have a question. This is Joanne.
Yes.
If the governor does want you to do all these tests, then is he aware that supplies are very limited here, or he just doesn't care?
Well, like Erie County, they're ahead of us, so we can almost watch them as a model. Gail Burstein down there, she can only handle about 700 tests per week. They just don't have the staff. So it sounds good in terms of what you can test out of yellow. But in terms of when you operationalize it, you just can't.
You can't, no.
So what's going to happen, I think, is if we do approach yellow, and that would be like a 7-week, or I'm sorry, a 7-day average up around, it's like 7-8%. We'd probably go down for 2 weeks, shut down, and let the numbers get back down. But again, it's these parties, it's these social activities. And I think if we're here till Thanksgiving, that'll be good. But after Thanksgiving, you measure about 3 days later and up the numbers pop, just like Halloween. You wait 3 or 4 days later and up they pop.
Right.
Clark, I have a question.
Tim, I have a question then. How do you determine which staff and which students are to be tested?
Well, again, you can't force the students, so it's voluntary. So that's the other handicap. You got to get 20% of your populations to voluntarily take testing. So that's an uphill battle. And that's why I think you'll see Erie County in the next couple of days probably go virtual.
I have a question about Friday.
Yeah.
Was it only the Learning Center that shut down?
In Royhart?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And it reopened Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
After we determined that the person was confined to one room, and the Royhart staff was fantastic. They came in, they did some cleaning. They did some intense extra cleaning. And that the main reason for shutting down is to give the county time to do this contact tracing so they can get all the info. And as I said, again, they're finding out that so-and-so's boyfriend had it and they were at some parties. And
right.
And again, it's not the students which are transmitting it. And that's mainly because of our great protocols in terms of we're following our protocols. Staff are enforcing protocols. If you look at my message to the community, you have to thank the parents and the students. They're really adhering. In the old days, the administrators would spend times with kids smoking in the bathroom and stuff. But our violation of mask protocol is like zero, unless there's a specific handicapping condition. So everybody's really pitching in on this. Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, seeing none. Okay, thank you. So we have no old business, but we do have new business. Is there any changes, Cindy?
We got the blue section. We got Mrs. Conley to present the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you all received the administrative and O&M budgets. As Dr. Gottschall said, the administrative budget is a 0% increase. And as we reviewed with the audit committee this evening, we no longer have the assigned fund balance for retiree health. That was a multi-year plan that was recommended by the comptroller's office when they came in and did an audit here about 5 years ago. So that was a multi-year plan to basically increment the budget line to the proper level and trying to reduce the impact on our component districts. So we no longer have that. Other increases are our typical contractual increases in salaries and health insurance. Health insurance at this time, we're estimating about a 5% increase. The Health Consortium so far is doing well, so we hope that continues. The retirement systems for both the employers and the teachers' retirement systems, right now they have estimates. So we will know later on in the budget process what those actual increases will be. But right now we're estimating ERS, the employer's retirement system, to be 16.2%, and the teacher's retirement system up to 12%. However, this past weekend, there was some information that the TRS board is encouraging them to keep it to a maximum of 10%. So we might see some relief in that area. Nonetheless, still an increase though with the teachers' retirement system contributions from where we are currently. The proposed O&M budget is a 1% increase overall. And again, primarily due to contractual increases. The salaries are in accordance with the current collective bargaining agreement. And actually with that one, it's now estimated because they are out of contract. So, and that is pretty much it. You have the line by line budget. But overall, like I said, administrative is going to be a 0 and O&M is 1%. So I'll take any questions if anyone has any. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Okay, I guess we'll go from there. New business.
This is Tom. I'll move B.
Is Janice on
Colleen will second.
Did you get that, Cindy? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that was carried.
This is Tom. I'll move C.
I'll second it, Joanne.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
This is Tom. I'll move D, E, and F. And for E, we're just going to move that we're going to table it till next meeting. So
This is Tim. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That was passed.
Before we move on to F, could I ask what the programs are that are in that lease agreement with Holy Trinity? I'm just curious.
That is adult literacy programming.
Okay. Just wondered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Pink?
We have one change. Letter C, Suzanne Zawan. Her effective date is November 9th.
This is Tim. I'll move A, B, and C.
this is Tom. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that was carried.
This is Tom. I'll move D, E, and F.
This is Carol. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm trying to catch up here, turning the pages.
This is Tom. I'll move G, H, and I.
This is Bob. I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that's passed.
This is Tom. I'll move J, K, and L.
This is Colleen. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So now we're on to the addenda.
Yeah, I can talk you through some of the items on the addenda. The first is we have a couple of vehicles. Again, we're trying to shrink the fleet and make sure that we're being as efficient as possible. So we're getting rid of a couple of vehicles at high mileage. The agreement with Cornell University, this organization, this board is committed to the TCI training. We are required to do some extra training and keep everybody up certified. That came in late, but we would like to take action on that. It's a lengthy contract, but we'd like to get going on that. And then in terms of some good news, in terms of some staff, we continue to find the support staff. We need the support staff, a lot of turnover. So we found some PT, OT positions, staff members. We finally found, we're very pleased with computer technology. If you remember, we had trouble at the beginning of the year to find a computer teacher. And if you look at the gentleman's credentials, they look very good. Hasn't been in the classroom, but just outstanding in terms of training. And hopefully we can get him up to speed and doing a great job on that. And I have to thank the previous teacher. He supported the class in terms of remotely. And we have a new library support services person with a library media specialist. With this appointment too, part of the condition is that they'll have to pursue and become administratively certified.
Why is that?
Is that needed in the resolution?
In the school library services candidate meeting?
Yeah.
No, it's not needed in the resolution, but it's been made clear to the individual in correspondence.
Yeah, it's one of the requirements the state has in terms of this person oversees all the local library operations. It's grant funded. So we will be paying for that person to pursue his administrative certificate in order to hang on to that position.
Now, may I ask, does he have a certain time to complete that, or is it like at his leisure, or how does that work?
No, there's a time frame in terms of, he'll probably do it in 2
Okay.
or 3 years. Mhm.
Pay for that, I guess.
And we've been looking for an HVAC instructor to get our operation up over at the Harrison project. And if we could do some drop-ins, that would be a good spot to see. We have the equipment there, but now we're going to get that up in Lockport. And so I'm pleased we found an HVAC instructor. Thanks.
We should take a tour there sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions?
Ed, I got a motion for the audit. When are we putting that in? Except
You already did it.
Did it?
You did it up in,
It was
Okay.
under new business.
yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. We're up to G and H.
I'll move G and H in the blue section. This is Tom.
Any second?
I'll second Janice.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried.
Then for the big section, this is Tom again. I'll move D, M, and N.
This is Carol. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's passed. Okay. So we are up to the executive session.
Okay, so we would benefit from an executive session for discussion of the employment histories of particular individuals, collective negotiations with the Orleans Niagara BOCES Administrators of Supervisors Association, ONBOCES, current litigation in the matter of Hilburn and Bocesta versus Orleans Niagara BOCES, current litigation in the matter of Hare, H-A-R-E, versus Orleans Niagara BOCES, pending in Supreme Court, Niagara County. The first instance that I mentioned on the first case was Supreme Court, Orleans County, and also pending, also discussion regarding a matter pending before the New York State Division of Human Rights, with the complainant not being identified because it's not appropriate to identify the complainant in that case.
I'll make that motion. This is Tom.
I'll second, Bob.
Now that you did that, and I apologize, we could also benefit